Before I make another query by using this route object, let me have a body for this scaffold. For the body, I will take a list view and I will have some padding for this list view, and the padding should be a constant all maybe 8 pixel. And as the first children, I want to show a text, and the text will show about the result, showing result for. Now I will show the route city from and city to that is available inside this route object. So to get the city from and city to, I need to call the route object here and city from. So showing results for city from to route.city to, and also I want to show the departure date on departure date. So I don't want the date to be shown at the app bar, so I'm removing this thing from here and I'm putting a constant keyword back before this text widget. And if I now press hot reload, then you can see a text widget that is showing some necessary information. But also I want to put some style for this text. So constant text style, a font size of 18. Let's reformat this code and press hot reload. So we have the text here. And now we need to show the schedule list. And now we need to call some function that will retrieve the schedule list from the tempdb. And the method will be, if I go inside this data source class, the method should be this one. So get schedules by route name. So we have the route name also in the bus route object by combining the city from and city to. So we will use this method. And to use this method, we need to go to the dummy data source class and find the implementation, and that will be this one. So get route by city name, and we have the route name object. Not this one maybe, but this one, get schedules by route name. So this method will return a list of bus schedules. So let's just return a tempdb dot, we need to access the table schedule, that list, and then we need to call the where function that actually returns an iterable, and we need to provide a condition and then convert it to a list. And the condition will be, so this element is a bus schedule, will simply match the route name. So element, that means it is a bus schedule object, and inside the bus schedule object we have a bus route object. This is one-to-one association. So each bus schedule have exactly one bus and one bus route object. So the dummy data source class, we need to define, this is actually a schedule. Let me rewrite this, and now I will check this is schedule dot bus route dot bus name or route name if it matches with the parameters we are passing through this function. And we need to specify or mark this function as asynchronous. So this is all about this function. Now we need to call this function from the app data provider class to hold or to get back the data, the list of schedules from this function, and to store it somewhere else. I am going to declare a list here. So list of bus schedules, that will be a schedule list, and initially it is empty. And I need to import this object, bus schedules, maybe schedule, if I'm not wrong. So yes, this is bus schedule, and this is private so that we cannot directly access this property from outside, but to get access to this list we need to set a getter property for that. So list of bus schedule get, and the getter property will be schedule list, and it will have the schedule list from this schedule list. So this getter property will simply return this schedule list, so that whenever we want this schedule list, we call this property, not this one. So not directly accessing this list so that we can modify it unnecessarily. So now we need to define a function that will call that function in the dummy data source class. So this function need not return anything, so I am making it a void, and the function name should be get schedules by route name. I'm passing the route name as parameter, and this function will be an asynchronous function because I'm going to use the await keyword. So await. Now I'm calling the data source get schedules by route name function, passing the route name, and it will eventually return a list of bus schedule after waiting for some time, and we will have this list of schedule inside this schedule. So I'm assigning this returned list of bus schedule inside this schedule list. So schedule list equals await, and now I am going to call a very special function that is notify listeners, and that function is coming from this change notify class. So whatever widget is using this schedule list will be notified once this list has been changed. So let's see how it works. Now we have to call this function from the search result page, and the only place we have is the build function. And after the departure date declaration, I just want to get the provider object by writing provider dot of context. And do we need to pass the listen false or true this time? Because I want this provider object to update my widget, so I don't need to pass listen false here. And I need to specify the provider class, so app data provider, and then I need to call the get schedules by route name. I need to pass the route name from the route object, so route dot route name. And when this function finishes its work, by this time we know that our list will be available inside this schedule list. So let's complete our widget here. So in order to show a widget list, a scrollable list, we need to define a list view, but we are already inside a list view, so that I actually taken a list view as the body so that I can actually make the whole page scrollable. But you should not take another list view inside a list view. If you want another scrollable list, then you should make this or convert it to a column and then use a list view, or you can simply use a column here. So I'm taking a column here, and the cross-axis alignment should be start, so that every child of column starts from the left. And children, I want the children of this column to be generated dynamically. So how many children will have this column will depend on the size of this schedule list. So I have to get the provider object once again, because I need to get this list by calling this schedule list property here. So what can I do is, instead of declaring or having the provider object and calling the method directly, what I can do is I can get a provider object like this, and I can simply assign this portion so that we have so that we have a provider object, and then in the following line we can simply use this object to call this method. And now we can use the same object, provider object, to get to the list. So provider dot schedule list dot map, and we need to call the toList function here. And for now I'm just returning a list style for every schedule we have. So, and in the list style I want to set a title. A title should be a text widget, and I want to show the bus name first. So the bus name will be inside. So this E actually will be the schedule object. So I need to define this. So this is the schedule object. So bus name will be inside the schedule dot bus name, and in the subtitle I want to show the bus category. That means what type of bus is that. So bus type. And at the trailing I want to show the ticket price. So I am going to use the currency. So this currency is coming from constant.dart file. And if your currency is USD or pound, then you should actually replace this string with your currency. So currency, then I'm going to show the ticket price that is available directly inside the ticket price property. And if I now make a hot restart, once again we have some problem, and the problem is actually inside the dummy data source class, and maybe we forgot to put a semicolon. Now I'm making a hot restart once again, and let's see whether we can see the schedule list or not. So I'm taking the cities as well and making a search, and as you can see we are able to see 3 schedules, and it's very obvious because matching this route we get only 3 schedules in the table schedules list. So we're able to get the schedules, but we want to show this schedule list in a different way, and we want to show more information like the departure time and the total number of seats available in that particular bus, and also the route name. So I need to define a new custom widget to do that. So that custom widget will show each schedule item. But before I do that, I want to mention one thing, and the thing is, what we have done here is not a very good thing, because what we have done, we have called a function that actually calls another function, and that function is actually an asynchronous function, and Flutter recommends that we should not call any function or asynchronous function inside a build function. So this is not a proper way to do that, and we need to remove this. But before that, I want to make you know that this thing, that means this method actually calls an asynchronous function, and Flutter will not actually wait for this function to get the results. When Flutter calls build function, it will execute all the lines, then eventually it will call this function, and this function will eventually call an asynchronous function. And before this function actually is done with its job, Flutter will not wait here. Instead, Flutter will start rebuilding the widgets. So at the very first time when the page loads, before getting the data, our column will show an empty list. Actually, this schedule list right here is initially empty, and when this widget first build, this schedule list is empty and we are not be able to see any schedules. But at the later moment, when data are available inside this list, and Flutter actually, or provider actually notifies to whom? Actually, it notifies our column to rebuild, because whatever item it was using, that has been changed. So provider will make this column rebuild so that it can show the list with latest data. So in this case, we haven't used any stateless widget, stateful widget, and we haven't used any set state method to update our widget. So all the responsibilities are now on the shoulder of provider. But like I was saying, it is not the right way to call an asynchronous function or asynchronous job directly inside the build function. Even if you go to the provider documentation page in the readme section, and if you scroll down a bit, then you will see, to get a provider object, we have some other options here. We actually use the provider.of method. Instead of provider.of, you can also use context.read function. So you can either use provider.of or you can use context.read. And if you want to pass listen to false, then you can use context.read. And if you don't want to pass false, you want this to true, then you should call this context.watch. But whatever method you choose to call, do not actually make this call inside a build function. So in the next lecture, I will refract this code a little bit so that we can handle this feature in a very appropriate way, and Flutter also have a better approach, a good widget that handles future data and shows or builds widget accordingly. So see you in the next video.